Hey everybody, welcome to Cinema A to B. Today, we are going to talk about the 2000 Ridley Scott film Gladiator, which I know is a personal favorite both for myself and for Ben. So, Ben, we've seen this movie dozens of times, just you and I together, and we've, I'm sure, seen it dozens of times by ourselves or with other people as well. So, let's revisit this.
So, obviously, this movie's firmly in my top 10. I mean, firmly. And why it's not number one, I don't know. I just can't quite get it up there, but It probably deserves to be. I mean, I know a ton of, I've got a lot of friends. This is their number one film, and it's completely justified. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. And I was thinking about this last night when we had discussed that this was going to be on the podcast. I think I took how great this movie is for granted when I saw it. And let me explain. I saw it in the theater with my dad in high school. I think it was a summer release or a May release or something like that. And we were both utterly blown away. And I think we went to see it at least one or two more times in the theater. And we knew it was fantastic. And then obviously the following year, it just freaking crushes it at the Oscars, the Academy Awards.
Like 12 nominations, 5 wins. Fantastic.
Yeah, but I got spoiled, right? Because I thought, oh, I'll see something like this good again, right? 23 years later, no, I haven't. Like in this style, this sword and sandal historical kind of epic. No. And even Ridley Scott tried to do it again with Kingdom of Heaven, and he couldn't quite get there. I was spoiled into thinking that, oh, this is great, but these come out every so often. No.
Well, and even comparing it to the stuff that came before it, it's leaps and bounds above many of the things that, kind of paved the way. Like, I love Spartacus, but I'll take Gladiator over Spartacus, which I know is sacrilege to a lot of people.
Well, no, I mean, it's a different era. It's a completely different style of filmmaking. Yeah. But I guess if I want to know what were audiences' impressions, coming out of Spartacus or something like Ben-Hur in the 50s, this is as close as probably in my lifetime as I'm going to get. Like, and another director could certainly come around and create something as good, or maybe, I don't know, I'd be hard pressed to be better, but maybe better in our lifetime. But I'm probably going to be 75 years old before they do it. Mm-hmm. It's that good. It's just this it's rarefied air. Mm-hmm. It's even for his director as supremely gifted as Ridley Scott, it's rarefied air. These things just don't grow on trees. Movies of this magnitude just don't come around that often.
It was hard for us to kind of see it at the time. One, because it's always hard to kind of see how the greatness of it and the moment sometimes. But we're also talking about a 3 to 4 year period of some amazing films come out. I mean, 99 saw The Matrix come out. We had 2001 was Lord of the Rings Fellowship. So
2001,
in 2001 you have Black Hawk Down. You've got kind of these. I mean, you've had Saving Private Ryan in '98. So you have a lot of these fantastic, amazing movies that is great for that time period. But it's also hard to be like realize just how great this is, because you're like kind of desensitized to how amazing these movies are, and you're expecting this to go on, and obviously
that's it. That's it. That's you've summed it up perfectly. Just the expectation that they can keep this level of quality churning through the studios. Mm-hmm. And you're right. There with that window there was, and it's really interesting because it's completely distorted my sensibilities. Mm-hmm. Because that's when I probably saw the highest volume of movies, was probably starting in like 96, 97. Mm-hmm. And my dad and I would, and a huge shout out to my dad, Jeff. And that window is really special for me in high school, where he and I would just go see something constantly. I mean, just constantly. Like it felt like almost every weekend. It wasn't, but that's what it felt like. And we were seeing stuff like Saving Private Ryan, and then Fight Club, and then before it would probably been after close to graduation, Gladiator.
Yeah.
And we saw movies together after that. You know, I came home for Christmas one year and we watched, Fellowship of the Ring, and we're blown away. But Gladiator and Saving Private Ryan are probably the two really special movies where we both came out of the theater just going, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And now, funny thing with Gladiator, there's no reason it should be this good. And you know the story, right? That they wrote the script, right? They wrote the screenplay. They hire Ridley Scott to direct. They've got Russell Crowe attached to star,
who had just done The Insider as like his main big movie a year before.
Yes.
So he wasn't the big name actor that he was.
No.
Like, he was still relatively unknown.
The biggest star going into this was Richard Harris as Marcus Aurelius, right? Like the rest of it's like, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix had done some stuff, but like he was relatively unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is Russell Crowe's first, like, he is the true lead, because obviously in The Insider, Al Pacino is there as well. So it's like, he's not really that. I mean, then he was in LA Confidential before a couple of years, but wasn't, again, the main character. This is like his vehicle. And
yes. So that's reason A, that this probably shouldn't be as successful and as good as it is. But the main thing is the screenplay, because they write this huge screenplay. Franzoni does, who created the story as well. And then Ridley Scott like takes it, sees the potential of it, literally throws out everything except for 21 pages of script. And they start shooting.
Wait,
with 21 pages of script.
This should not have worked.
No, it shouldn't. This is not, folks, this is not how you make a movie.
No.
So Ridley Scott and another like couple writers and Russell Crowe are like huddled together every night, basically cobbling together the rest of the story. And they shoot it and create one of the greatest films of all time. The only other movie that I know is made in a similar manner that was just like a dumpster fire was Tombstone.
Oh. Which
we'll have to revisit, Tombstone, because that's the one where effectively the movie was directed by Kurt Russell, and most people don't know that, but he directed the movie. He just didn't want his name attached to it. But this movie, we're going to start with 21 pages of screenplay and just kind of make it up as we go along. I think they had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think they knew where they wanted to go, and so that made things easier. But yeah, this is not how you make movies, and I don't think that's standard procedure for Ridley Scott either. It's sort of a, it was a rare thing to have happen, but it's wild.
And I'm sure he kind of had it in his head, a lot of the things, and so it's just getting the dialogue down, some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
But you also had the issue too that Oliver Reed, who plays Proximo, dies as well during this year, and so you had to change some things there as well.
Yeah, before they were done shooting, he passed.
Yeah. So they had to bring in a stunt double. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell they reuse the shadows and dust footage and then kind of change the background before he's stabbed. Yeah, and he was supposed to have a lot more dialogue and things going on in the final act, but you do what you have to do when you lose a key player like that.
Well, so I was going to say, the tidbit is they actually had the insurance money. So obviously they insured the movie where the actor died during production. So they were given like $25 million to reshoot all of Proximo's scenes. But like apparently Ridley Scott was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like Oliver Reed did such a great job of this performance. I'm just going to change the story and work around it because I can't see anyone else in that role. Right. And I can't either. I mean, like, he does such a fantastic job as that character.
He is. He's amazing. He's amazing. And that's the thing, right? So you get him and Richard Harris as these veteran actors, and that Derek Jacobi as Gracchus is like a old school actor too.
Yeah.
But everybody else is like relatively unknown, but you just get high level performances from everybody. And Russell Crowe gets all the love, but obviously in retrospect, we can now say, you know, how great Joaquin Phoenix really was in this and is. It's a credit to an actor when you can hate him that much.
And so much so that when he played in Signs, it was like it took me a while to get over this, to warm up to him, because I was like, I still had this residual hate of how terrible you are. But I mean, obviously the character, not the actor, but
right. It is. It's just it's a shame, I guess. I can't get more of this stuff, but it's just it's exceedingly expensive to make these movies, with all the sets they've built, and you know, anytime you do a period piece, it's just going to be super expensive. Now, I do want to discuss a little bit briefly, because it just comes up a lot, how much this film's compared with Braveheart, and I feel like there was like a 5-year window after this came out, from like 2000 to 2005, where it felt pretty 50-50 amongst most viewers, like on who preferred Braveheart and then who preferred Gladiator. But I feel like that, and I don't know how much of it has to do with Mel Gibson and his issues, but it feels like the debate has largely been settled that Gladiator is not just the better movie. It's like substantially the better movie. And I tend to agree with that. I don't, just based on repeat viewings, I don't find myself going back to watch Braveheart very often.
Yeah. Well,
it's still a great movie, but
Gladiator's not a short movie.
But it's shorter than Braveheart.
It's shorter than Braveheart. And I think there's a little bit more buy-in. So like there's obviously character development in Braveheart, and you see kind of William Wallace do his move, but it is a lot slower. And I think you could definitely trim Braveheart and come out with still the same quality movie, where honestly there's not a lot in Gladiator that I think you can take out without kind of changing some of that hero's journey, or that kind of those character moments of getting all the pieces together. There's not a lot of fat on this movie, which is, I think, great.
Yeah. The other thing too is I think just visually, Gladiator is just the sexier movie. I mean, it just is, right? Ancient Rome, and you've got especially that. My favorite scene is probably still the fight with the veteran the veteran Gladiator, who I believe that actor was one of Arnold Schwarzenegger's stunt doubles back in the day. And he's for sure in Conan the Barbarian.
Thorsen or something like that.
He's one of the big baddies, one of Thulsa Doom's big baddies in Conan the Barbarian. But I love that fight with him because of the, all his chromed up steel, the mask, and it's just in the tigers and stuff. It's just visually more interesting. Braveheart's kind of an ugly movie, not the way it's shot. It's beautifully shot, but those battles just become mud pits and you kind of have a hard time even. Yeah. Except for the face paint and the rest of it.
We will go into the Braveheart issues. So that's a different podcast.
But yeah, I think that's a lot of it is just visually Gladiator's more interesting, traveling around just this epic recreation of ancient Rome. We won't get into the historical nature of it. It's loose at best, but
because Maximus is an amalgamation of like 4 or 5 characters, 4 or 5 people or whatever.
Yeah. And then there's and there's no evidence to suggest that Commodus killed his father either.
No. Well, supposedly, Aurelius died of the plague, I thought.
Yeah. And didn't they rule at the same time for a little bit?
I don't remember. I do know that Commodus came in, if I remember correctly, he was like everyone loved him. Like the public absolutely loved him, but then he got kind of wrapped up in his own amazingness as emperor. Like I think he changed the name of the coins to be called Commodus or something based off of his name until the people just went, okay, this is too much. And he got killed by a gladiator, Narcissus or something like that, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So him fighting in the arena was accurate.
Yes.
But I appreciate the fact that Gladiator never attempted to portray itself as history. Like that's not what it was. It was always this, quasi historical epic. And so it doesn't suffer from those issues that I think we kind of pile on with Braveheart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say it's fun to also watch this movie because this is, I think, the movie where Ridley Scott fell in love with Morocco, of shooting movies in Morocco.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
I think this is his first one he did because he then did Black Hawk there as well.
Yeah, Black Hawk Down shot in Morocco. Yeah.
So
which I think opened up. Yeah, I think opened up the country a little more to some other productions too. I don't because it seems like in the following 5 years after that there's some other stuff I think I recall that was shot in Morocco.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, he did some Kingdom of Heaven shots in Morocco too.
That makes sense.
Not 100%
by the way,
on
my favorite line about Morocco is from the movie Patton. When they're introduced, Patton, he's standing there and they've got the Moroccan army doing a parade in front of him. And he's just like, oh, this is great, Morocco. It's like a combination of Hollywood and the Bible.
I love that.
Just
movie.
An aside. And we're going to do Patton.
Oh, yeah.
I love Patton.
You can't not do that George C. Scott movie.
The only thing that kind of dates it now are some of those flyover CGI renderings. Mm-hmm. They look, some of them look still good. There's kind of the first time you ever fly over Rome, it's like an overcast kind of gray day, right? And so everything has almost a black and white look to it. And you're coming through the clouds. It's a really cool shot. And I don't know if it's CGI and some model work. I don't know how much they did, but that holds up. But some of the other flyovers that are in like full color of the Colosseum, things just don't look quite right. But I don't think they're going to bother to go back and revisit any of that. I mean, people that love watching this movie don't watch it and then like, oh, that's taking me out of the movie. And those shots are pretty short, but
there's not a lot of that bad CGI in this movie. And it's really those kind of establishing shots, flyovers that kind of you can see, but are just so short that you can be like, it's from 2000,
right.
So
but the battle sequence, the opening battle sequence is still incredible.
Yeah.
And the level of detail is really high because all the tactics and methods are authentic based on what historians know about Roman warfare. Mm-hmm. So that scene's still incredible. And then any of the other digital work was like simple stuff, like them compositing shots so that the tigers are in the same frame as the actors, like swiping, but you can't tell that, right? And I've mentioned that on the podcast before. That's like my favorite simple effects work is just high-end compositing work where you combine shots and
because he was never more than like closer than 15 feet away from any of the tigers. And I think
I'd hope not.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So,
yeah.
Well, supposedly trivia is that they actually had to go to the tigers into like doing the swiping and being angry because they'd been on set for so long that they just got used to all of the cameras and crew around that they were just kind of like relaxed and they're just like, we're gonna be fed, we're just gonna be chilled. And so like, no, we need you actually to be angry.
That makes sense because there is one scene during that fight where the tiger's just like sitting there, just like laying on the ground. It's not doing anything. It's like, just got bored.
Yeah, just like this bored. Is. Talk to my union rep. I'm not getting paid enough. So
let's say Gladiator was never made in 2000 and it was made today. Ooh. And they went through the same process with the script and whatnot, but like visually, how would they shoot it? Like, would they still be willing to build these extravagant sets in Malta and stuff and then shoot in, Morocco, or would everything would they just recreate the Colosseum and the virtual stage,
the volume or whatever that Disney uses. Either that or you do a lot of green screen and on sound stages in like New Mexico or other places.
Yeah. So which is the answer I thought I would get. Right. And that's kind of where that was where I was headed. And the reason I bring it up is this movie was made at the exact right time when they were still willing to get as much in camera as they could get without green screening it heavily and without doing obviously the virtual stage was just probably a figment in somebody's imagination. But yeah, a lot of these movies is a kind of a credit to when they were made with and this is my favorite era visually probably is the late 90s, early 2000s when they'd still get as much in camera as they could, but then they'd shoot a little bit of green screen, a little bit of effects work.
Well, because at this time, computer graphics were a lot more expensive than actually location shots, because it was still
now it's flip-flopped,
relatively new, and now now it's much easier. So changing topics. So kind of remembering this movie and stuff, Ridley Scott does a lot of filter on his shot selection. Like it's a very kind of when he's in, like there's a big difference of the color tones in when he's in Germania at the beginning as when he's like in the desert and then also in Rome. And it's pretty heavy and very noticeable, even for someone who that's not, my wheelhouse at all. So what are your thoughts? Did you feel like it was too heavy-handed, or did you feel like it really fit, like Ridley Scott actually did a decent job with that?
I think it largely works. And now what's hard to gauge here is this movie had one way it looked in theaters, right? And then it has another way that it appears, the color grade appears when it went to DVD. And DVD is probably where I've seen it the most. I do have the Blu-ray now, and I've seen it at least once or twice on Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray had another color grade. So my guess is the color grades are stronger for each location in the Blu-ray remaster.
Okay.
Then, because I don't recall in theaters, everything other than that kind of that grayed out version of Rome, when you first see Commodus kind of triumphantly returning from Germania, crowned as emperor. Other than that scene, everything else had a pretty unified look. Like the color temperature, like how warm stuff was, pretty much like Africa when he first starts fighting. That looked pretty much, Rome looked the same way in the theatrical, from what I recollect. And the DVD was true too. I think everything got pushed harder in the Blu-ray, and I think they made Africa warmer than Rome. And then, but Germania was always pretty cold looking, but I think they blued it up even more for the Blu-ray. And I understand it, because you want the world to feel as big as it possibly can, and so you want these areas of the globe, because it is a very expansive movie. And then you have Spain as well, which has its own look. And I don't know if this movie was digitally color corrected in 2000 or not, or if he just went the standard film processing. I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was beautiful then. It's beautiful now. I mean, it's and the reason it's so good is because of the production design. The production designer had to have won an Oscar.
The 5 Oscars were for Best Picture. Russell Crowe got a Best Actor award.
Did not win for Best Art Direction, Set Direction.
Winner, let's see, they won for Best Costume Design. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Best Effects, Visual Effects, they won for.
But yeah, unfortunately, this Arthur Max did not win for Best Art Direction and Set Direction. And he's been nominated 3 times. Gladiator, American Gangster, and The Martian. Never won. So yeah, I mean, this is Ridley's guy for production design. Everything.
Did a great job. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's used them since G.I. Jane. So Gladiator, Black Hawk Down, Kingdom of Heaven, American Gangster. Yeah, the rest of them, Prometheus.
Prometheus.
So he's going to be the production designer on Gladiator 2 and Napoleon.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. The reason it looks so good is largely the costume and production design. I mean, the cinematography is fantastic, but when you get sets and costumes that look the way they do, there's no reason the image shouldn't just be spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you back it up with an excellent story that was, I guess, put on, cobbled together on the fly. You get a great.
Yeah. I mean, I think a caveat, I think the bones for the story were sound in the script, but there was some weird, from what I remember, there's some weird stuff in the original script that they just were like, oh, this doesn't make any sense at all. So yeah, they had a place to go. They had a roadmap, but yeah, it still blows my mind. Yeah. Just because both of us know how hard it is to make a movie, like just to make a movie
that you already have scripted out, just
to make one, is such a feat. Let alone to make a good one, let alone to make a great one.
Yeah,
and then to do it in this manner, I'm still flabbergasted that it is the movie that it is, given how they went about it. But Ridley Scott's one of the best. I mean, in my opinion, one of the best to ever do it.
I will, one point that, so kind of rewatching this, or at least the beginning parts of it, I laughed because I know I like Hans Zimmer a lot, but this is so Hans Zimmer, this score. Like, he doesn't really change it up. Like, I know, like in Black Hawk Down, he spent a lot of time to make it so it didn't sound like a Hans Zimmer movie. Yeah, this sounds like a Hans Zimmer movie, so much so that he lifted parts from this score and used them in Pirates. Like, I'm listening to like the opening sequence, in the battle scene. I'm like, wait, is this Pirates? Why does this sound like Pirates? And sure enough, nope. He just kind of like, he was like, I really like this, and put it in Pirates. So
yeah, and he's evolved really well, because now he's doing, he did Dune, and Dune doesn't sound like a Hans Zimmer score.
Well, and he did Interstellar as well.
Yeah,
and Interstellar doesn't sound like a
Now he's not. He just a Hans Zimmer tangent for a second. He totally made Christopher Nolan mad. And like, I don't know if him and Nolan, I think they're still on friendly terms, but I don't know that Hans Zimmer will ever score another Christopher Nolan picture.
Really? What happened? I don't know this. Or are you just saying like,
I don't want to make more out of this. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, because that's not what this is. But there was a conflict when Nolan went to do, what was Nolan's last movie?
Not Dunkirk, but Tenet.
Tenet, yes. So Nolan wanted Hans Zimmer to score Tenet, and Hans had himself a decision to make. Do I score Tenet or do I score Dune? And he picked Dune, and Nolan got a little hurt. Yeah. And had to go off in a different direction with who scored Tenet. And I like the score for Tenet, but apparently, like if you spurn Nolan once, like he's not eager to like work with you again. So yeah, this Ludwig Göransson scored Tenet, and he also is going to score Oppenheimer. So I don't think you're, for all the fanboys out there, I don't think you're going to see a Nolan Zimmer matchup anytime soon. No,
but tangent off of Ludwig, I mean, he also does a good job, because he did the Mandalorian.
Oh yeah,
music as well.
Yeah, this is like the new up. Yeah, this is the hot guy. This is the hot composer right now in Hollywood. But just a funny aside with with old Hans, and I love Hans Zimmer. But I feel like he's evolved pretty well as far as branching out with the way his stuff kind of sounds.
Because there's definitely in the like 90s and 2000s, it's sometimes very difficult to figure out which movie is this track from. As someone who I love listening to movie soundtracks and put them on shuffle, it's like, wait, is this Pirates? Is this Gladiator? Is this Crimson Tide? What is it? And like, they all kind of blend together. So
and Gladiator started that. I don't know the artist, but you have the Hans Zimmer stuff, but then you also have that female artist that sings as well, and he reused that in more of that in Black Hawk Down. Yeah, which I think it works in both movies, but it was a nice carryover to Black Hawk Down. And frankly, Dune kind of uses a little bit of that. Like Dune sounds kind of similar. I don't know if it's the same. I don't think it's the same artist, but yeah, everything about Gladiator is done to the highest degree of excellence, and we're just happy to be able to watch it whenever we want. So
I only got one more question for you.
What's that?
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
It's not why we are here.
I mean, some just great moments in this movie.
Yeah, I love that moment where he's
just like
but I love that. I love that other moment where Maximus is with Proximo, and he's like, "You knew Marcus Aurelius?" He starts laughing at him, and he's like, "I didn't say I knew him. He touched me on the shoulder once." This is a universally beloved movie, and it's 23 years old, and it still holds up. And
very well.
If somebody's listening, I feel pity upon you if you've not watched this, but there's still time. There's still time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we really haven't spoiled it at all. So, no, some bits, but
nah.
And I will say the only thing that I can think you can kind of cut is the opening scroll where it talks about Rome and the battle. I mean, I don't think it really adds that much to it. I mean, it does give you some kind of context, but like you can get thrown into it.
This is a Ridley Scott staple. He does it in Black Hawk Down. He's done it. He's done it in Blade Runner. Like this is his thing. This little bit of two short paragraphs or one short paragraph of like entry level text.
Yeah,
that's kind of his thing. It's one of his monikers, and so it's the way he likes to set things up with some print.
Russell Crowe at his best.
Yeah. And I guess we didn't talk about the fact that there's going to be a Gladiator 2, but we'll just see what that's all about.
I'm reserving judgment and expectations for that. Much like Heat 2. I'm not excited for either. But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see.
Can the directors retread and do just as well?
We'll see. All right. Thanks for catching us. Yeah. Hit that subscribe button and the bell on YouTube. All right. I appreciate everybody catching us on another episode of Cinema A to B. Go see Gladiator again or for the first time. It does not matter because it's so damn good.